Good evening, everyone. It is the UnFuckIt Discussion, Wednesday, August 22nd. We're in the last few days of August. It's like kind of freaking me out again. We've just been having a conversation about weather and the insanity of the weather at the moment. I'm sitting here in Malta, and we're having our third rainstorm for today. We've had rain 2 days ago. We've had rain last week. And this does not happen in Malta in August. Like, there is no rain in August. If you do, you get one massive blowout thunderstorm that happens. It lasts for exactly 3-4 minutes long, and it makes it horrifically humid, and that's all it does. And to the point, even the locals here, actually, one of them said to my daughter this morning, it's like we've jumped 3-4 weeks ahead, because the weather we're having right now is mid to late September weather. It's not August weather at all. And we've been discussing all the insanity, the complete and utter insanity. And we're having more rain than England is right now in August. It's unheard of. And we're talking about things like crops coming in too soon. Crops coming in too soon, or crops coming in faster than anticipated. And I was just saying, this happened last year. I talked about this last year, where the farm lady that I get all my produce from lost one crop and almost lost several other crops because they were ready 2.5-3 weeks early, and they just didn't know. It's happening again this year. John was just saying the same thing. Their beans and peas, are done already. So what's causing it? And it's the big question right now. So on the one hand, we have the ultraviolet light coming in. And we know that that's ramped up incredibly. Anyone who's been watching Mr. BBBMP3, I can never say his handle right. He's been talking about the UV index continuously all summer. And apparently someone said, I think David Hodgson said that he measured in Arizona, reached 52 on the UV index one day this week. 52, they consider 10 to be high. 10, like 8, 9, 10 is like considered to be very high UV when they put out warnings in most places saying, be careful, the UV index is really high. We're seeing a huge amount of ultraviolet. So is that causing the increase in growth factor in plants? I don't know. I mean, because weather hasn't been, we certainly didn't have an early spring here. We had an average spring. We've had a very average year as far as temperature-wise up until this last bit with the rain. So it's not like people have had really, really early springs, so their growing season started earlier, and that's why the plants are coming in late, so much earlier. And the other thing is, I'm sorry, but like time is fucked right now. And maybe the plants are a real indicator to us. Like we can see, they don't go by a clock. Plants and produce don't grow by a clock. They don't go by what they're being told the date is, etc. They just grow their seasons. So I don't know. Is that part of it? I know that the Maltese apples were on the tree and were in the market 2 weeks ago. And that was at least 2 weeks early. At least a full 2 weeks early, if not, because you don't get Maltese apples till usually the end of August. Is it a time anomaly thing, such as time is just not what we think it is? Or longer, shorter? I don't know. Okay, and Ben, then we go into that magnetosphere, the ionosphere. I want to talk about this. I was having a conversation, Amina, and we were talking about a specific photo that was posted in the UnFuckers room, which was a line of cars parked on the side of the road, and they were all burnt out, and all their tires were melted. And someone was saying, oh, well, it's obviously got to be a dew attack. And I said, no, because lightning can melt tires. I've seen it happen. And we got talking about, well, what kind of lightning could do that? And I started talking, well, what if we're talking about plasma discharge from the planet up? I.e., if you can imagine, you've got all these metal pipes now under the roads. And if you have a massive discharge come up from the planet, hits the metal pipes, and just goes, woof, that would melt. You're talking like 1 billion volts. Would melt any fucking tires that are sitting on it. So, was it you, Chris, who said it could be plasma? Nice. So say what you want to say, Ben, because I want to get into this a little bit. I've got an itch, and I'm trying to work through it right now.
Okay, so I'll go through a couple of things that you kind of brought up that may correlate.
Yeah.
So, secret life of plants. Growing stuff in basement, proving that it's not the light, it's the waves that the light produces that are needed for growth.
Oh, I forgot that conversation that we had.
Secondly, I just thought just before, it's like we're talking about time and the slowing down feeling of time, not necessarily the actual slowing down time because the clock keeps ticking, right? So then you've got a different light spectrum, so blue light. Now, what happens when a strobe goes?
Uh-huh.
Right,
okay,
so it sort of slows down. So if we're dealing with like a pulse pause under blue light, it's going to seem like shit's slowing down, okay? And then I don't know if anyone's necessarily done proper correlative tests. I know that light spectrum feeding under closed circumstances is happening in greenhouses and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So like specific light spectrums being fed through LED.
Yeah. And you and Nick talked about that for increasing growth rates by playing with the light.
And we know like red light you can set off flowering and seed, and blue light will stunt growth and hold it back and blah 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 blah. But once again, it depends on the blue light and which spectrum you're going to, because there's still purple, right?
Yeah.
And the variance is in between. So just because we've got more UVCs and blue light waves coming through, it doesn't mean that the red light and yellow light and white light and aren't present. It just means that the blue light is more prevalent, which I think could be playing into that spectrum of things seeming like they're slowing down or speeding up, and it's actually light formats. So there's those things there to play with. And
okay, a quick aside. Okay, does anyone know or can quickly look up what color spectrum does gamma rays fall into? And I want to. Goes into the next little piece I want to talk about when we talk about high charged energy particles and light. But I don't know what color gamma would fall into.
I think that
gamma is beyond. Gamma is beyond what our color receptors pick up.
It's micro, isn't it?
Color is a perception. It's not a property.
Yeah. So it's beyond what our perception. So it doesn't necessarily mean it wouldn't have a correlation to color, but it's beyond our perception to perceive it.
Well, right. It's probably what I would say, because is it micro, John? Like microwave? So that they're very short.
Well, on the EM spectrum, the scientists don't really quantify it. They just put a line and say everything above this is a gamma ray.
So it's an anti, right?
Really?
So it's an anti. So maybe
it's not anti. It's just extremely high frequency.
Yeah. What I mean is, if there's a line, it's kind of like you say, unexplainable.
Well, no, like they put a line at the end of the high frequency radio waves because they don't have components that'll go higher than that because they can't make them small enough. And everything above that, they call a gamma ray.
So I'm wondering if there's a spectrum there where perhaps you have geometry on one side and physicality on the other kind of thing.
Well, there's no physicality there to begin with, so I can't really see how that would work.
That's why I say geometry.
Well, I mean, you were looking at a dividing line between physicality and geometry, and physicality is simply a perception. It's all just energy anyway.
Exactly. I know. It's that's that thing, right? So that's the difference between the books on physics and metaphysics. So you've got, like, in quanta, they'll describe / try and draw what something looks like in its state being viewed. And then there's these other dudes that were like remote viewing in energetic state, and it looks nothing like anything. So it's like when they give you a wave, that's the 2D representation. And if we were to look back down that wave, would it be a point, or would it be this like kind of thing?
If you were to take the sine wave representation, the 2D sine wave representation, extrapolate it into 3D and look at it from the end, what you'd see is a spiral.
Yeah.
I said a tornado. I kind of do.
So
I want to jump in for just a second, Ben, because Katrina's joined us today, and Katrina and I have been having an ongoing conversation in the UnFuckers group, and I wanted to, because I know she's got a really limited time span that she can be here. She's kind of playing hooky. So I want to talk about, and the reason I was getting into this is I want to talk about the forest fires in BC. And I've asked Katrina in because Katrina has looked at this for 2 years solid, Katrina, with all you guys have been through, and probably has amassed the most amount of information on the certain aspects of it. So things like whether it's a dew weapon, et cetera, et cetera. And I haven't followed it to that anywhere close to that extent. So I wanted to get Katrina to come in so we could talk a little bit about what's being seen and what is, I don't know, evidence versus what isn't evidence, and what is real, what isn't real, et cetera, because there's just so much out there right now that it's hard to wade through it all. Hi, Katrina.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Danny.
Hello, love.
God, where to start? I started doing this research 3 years ago after the Valley Fire in Mendocino. Then it kind of went to the wayside a little bit, and then last October, the fires were literally 4 minutes away from us. And at one point we were completely surrounded by fire. So I went into hyperdrive, obviously, to try to figure out what the hell was going on. I got a press pass. I snuck into Coffee Park, past the military. Thank you. Of everything. Have not been able to get those samples. I'm sorry, John. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better, Katrina. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. We took samples. We haven't been able to get any of the samples tested yet because it costs like $10,000 to get tested. But I still have them.
Good.
The marks on the streets that I found were the biggest indicator to me. I went in there the day after, and so nothing had been removed. Plastic bins, trash bins, totally fine. I saw one that got hit with a blast, but it was still totally fine. They all still had their trash in them. Plastic stayed, just like plastic doesn't melt in a microwave. The marks on the ground, I'll have to send you the pictures, Danny.
Please.
They're circular, and they're throughout the streets. Not a whole bunch of them, mainly in one certain area where it seems like the fire came down that road. And I asked a friend of mine who lives in that neighborhood what he saw that night, and he saw the sky turn blue. Then he saw these beams of light come down throughout Coffey Park. And I said, did it look like they were coming down Hopper Avenue? And he said, actually, yeah, that's exactly where they were coming down. So there was marks on the asphalt that are completely melted in circles. And there's nothing that melted there.
So like, you mean like continuous
Yes.
circles, or just like circles randomly?
Random circles. Would you like me to try to pull up one of the pictures?
If you could, I would love to see them.
share it?
Ben's like, yes, please show us the photos.
Yeah, let me try to find one right now.
And that, Penny, that's one of the things why I got into this whole thing, and I'm like just head first down the plasma discharge rabbit hole at the moment, because holy crap, it's a big one.
Yeah, definitely the cars look like, okay, so I brought my father came in right after the fires were done, because he didn't believe me that we were okay. He kind of just wanted to see it for himself. And I had joined already the fire pet rescue team, and so I was going through there every day. My father came with me on the route, and he ended up getting terrible PTSD and flashbacks from the wars that he's been in.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and he said when I got out of Mark West Springs, he was like, because I didn't talk to him about anything about the lasers or anything, and he just looked at me and he said, Katrina, I don't know what you guys got hit with, but you guys got hit with something. He was like, this is like a bomb went off. And I said, I know, that's what it felt like. And he's come back 4 times now just to see how everything is going. Trying to find this damn picture for you.
I should have given you more warning. I'm sorry, hon. I should have given you more warning so you could have had it pulled up.
I'll just when I get it, I will
just
send it to you personally.
And yeah, if you can send it to me, and even just throw it into the Unfuckers group and just throw it in there.
Yeah.
And just say, here's the photo.
No problem. I'll send a couple. However, here's the other weird thing, is that when I am discussing the fires, from my personal point of view, not like what everybody is saying or anything like that, all of a sudden Facebook won't let me share my photos. And I'm like, dude, the photos I took, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, cannot load, cannot load. The buildings were
If you want, Kat, you can throw them to me through Zoom and I'll post them for you.
awesome, thank you. The buildings were eviscerated. There was chimneys left. Random things made it. Cars flew in the air like 300, 400 feet. I spoke with a fireman, a chief, after the fires, and he said that, those fire tornadoes that everyone's been seeing.
Yep.
The news now, he was like, that happened here, and he said it created its own climate. He said that he felt like when he was fighting the fire, he said he felt like his heart stopped.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, did he mean like on an emotional level, or did he mean like on an energetic?
No, physical.
Physically.
Physically, his heart stopped. He thought he was gonna die. He couldn't move, and the electricity in the air that night was so crazy.
Did you say the electricity in the air?
Yes.
Oh, see?
Arcing everywhere. There was arcing everywhere. There was arcing right across our street. for hours. The wires were arcing. My friend was driving from Monterey to Santa Rosa on the 101. She comes up over the hill. She sees Santa Rosa on fire, like the glow. So she grabs her phone to say, like, call her mom and be like, what the fuck is going on? And her phone starts wigging out, like going crazy. Just then her car, which is a hybrid, started losing power, and all of the lights and everything went. She pulled over because she thought the car was going to explode.
Yeah, that's electrical. That's the whole electrical system is just being like.
It's a full discharge. It's a full discharge.
Exactly. We were totally primed. Is what I'm trying to get at. Is we were completely. Our atmosphere was totally charged and primed. The hotel, I'm sure you guys have heard about the hotel here, that as the fire was approaching, their whole security system went on lockdown. People's key cards wouldn't work, doors wouldn't open, people were breaking the windows and jumping out of the second floor.
Holy shit.
And yeah, and I've been to that, I went to that hotel, and it's right behind the, one of the mobile homes that burnt down. Not the mobile home, a mobile home park that burnt down. So the fire was coming right through, and people were jumping out the windows. I went there actually I caught a cat there a week and a half ago with the fire pet rescue team. Let me see. Oh, one guy, he hadn't heard from his friend up in Mark West Springs, and everything was on lockdown. Everything was closed off. Police were everywhere. Military was everywhere. And somehow he rode his bike up the charred hill. And then when he couldn't ride his bike anymore, he went on foot. He was looking for his friend. He got to his friend's neighborhood where he lived, and it's a gated neighborhood. Well, the gates never opened. People couldn't get out, and he said that there was just charred bodies everywhere.
Oh, fuck.
So when they say 44 people died here, it's a lie.
Yeah, and I remember you talking about it, saying it's fucking bullshit. We can count on our how many people, like many more people died.
Oh yeah. In December, so the fire was in October. In December, I'm having a meeting with the fire pet rescue team because it started to rain. We had to figure out what to do with the feeding stations so they didn't flood and whatever. So we're waiting on one woman, and she's never late. She finally shows up. She's visibly shaken. She is pale, and it was surreal. And we were like, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Well, I just figured that I would do my feeding stations before the meeting, and then I could just have the rest of my day." And she said, "I went on Hemlock Street, and this woman got out of her car, walks up to me and says, 'You know what? You can take this feeding station away.' And she said, 'Well, it was reported that there's cats here missing, so that's why we're doing this.' And she said, the lady said, 'Well, I've finally accepted it.' And she said, 'What do you mean?' She said, I've accepted it. My cat is gone, and so is my sister.' And I was like, oh my God. So there's people that are just reported missing because they've never found a body part.
Are there any aerial overhead views? Like, I mean, afterwards type thing? Because, I mean, we saw lots of stuff when the fires were coming, and and there were tons of videos showing it. Because I'd be really interested to know if there's any discharge craters. Like, if there's any, you could actually see circular discharge craters where you can
I don't see craters, but
centralize.
I don't see craters, but I do see those circular melted spots.
Yeah.
I do. Okay, I have one crazy picture that I will share with you. It was a friend of a
It's
friend who
called
took this.
pitting.
She never put this picture out publicly because she actually feared for her life. She was like, they will totally come after me if I show this picture. And she took it.
Okay, is there anything that would identify her as specifically as a person if you show the picture?
No.
Okay, and that's okay. So I just want to make sure that if we show it and it's in the video, that it's not going to identify her in any way.
No, it won't.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
So share the screen.
Ooh, okay. Oh,
Whoop.
shit, sorry.
We saw it for a second. We just saw it for a flash. No pun intended.
No pun intended, yeah. Sorry. I didn't realize that I had done it right. See, I second guessed myself.
Yeah, it came up. We saw it. Okay, there we see it. So
Okay.
what is that a picture of? It's obviously something exploding.
That is a laser coming down. If you look up to the right part of the screen, that's where it's coming down from. That is at the gas station. You've probably seen pictures of where a gas station, like the AM, PM, the part where you go in and pay, burnt down completely, but the actual gas
Pumps were fine. Yeah.
Pumps totally fine.
Yep, I remember that photo.
And then right next to it was like an Applebee's, and that got hit too. And I can show you the picture from the next day. 1 second.
There's been a number of pictures out there where you see a house cut in half.
Yep.
All the houses are gone. The trees are fine.
Yep. Well, and Nick and I have a theory on that one, and that's one of the things I wanted to share because we were really brainstorming this today. So, okay, where's the gas station? I'm trying to.
That's to the.
I see. Yeah. I'm looking for gas pumps by themselves. I didn't realize they have a roof over them. That's why I wasn't.
Yep, that's the gas pumps. The store for the gas station is gone. Then there was an Applebee's behind that, and then to the left is like another fast food restaurant.
Well.
And then up the way is the Kmart. That was like 100,000 square feet gone, and that was actually where the emergency teams told people to meet at for safety.
Sure.
And there were so many variables. Can you upload? Yeah. You want me to show you the laser again? Is that what was just asked of me?
No, but I want to just do me a favor and send it to me in a message so I can actually put it in as a still image into the article that will go with this, like I always do in archive. So I want to make sure that picture, the two pictures, if you can, send those to me.
No problem. So the atmosphere being electrically charged is a big, huge one of knowing that it is a DEW, because there's certain steps they have to take for scalar weaponry, and charging the atmosphere is one. It has to be prepped before it will accept the charge. The other thing is the spraying, the aluminum. During the fires, it seemed like the air was on fire. The soil was on fire. I've never seen soil catch fire. That's because of the aluminum particulates.
That are just sitting there.
For years, have been there, because we get sprayed all the time. Cars caught fire, as I said, not in the fire. Just like 9/11, we're 7 blocks away from the towers, cars just exploded. Cars caught fire. And I never understood it. Even when I watched Dr. Judy Wood, I was still like, well, that just makes no sense at all. Now I'm like, holy shit. Because that night we jumped in our car and we were like, what the fuck is going on? Because I was we were watching the arcing. The wind was crazy. That's another one, the wind. The wind just came out of nowhere. Same thing happened, people said in 9/11 too, that the wind got all hot and crazy right before the towers went down.
Yeah.
Or hit, sorry. Hot wind. It was hot wind.
Yeah.
In October.
That can also come with high explosives, though, like, right? Because high explosives, kind of like what the fireman said about the fire tornado, creates its own environment.
Yes.
That can actually happen even in a high energy explosion. It creates so much charged particles that you end up literally with a massive wind go whoosh, because it literally creates that environment.
And what's crazy is that none of these cars in Coffee Park, where I studied extensively, I've gone to the other places, but Coffee Park I go to all the time for my feeding route. And we're still catching cats, which is horrible. But none of those cars exploded. 3,000 degree heat. None of those cars exploded. They melted, like the engine blocks melted, any aluminum melted, the glass
aluminum melted, but not steel, right?
Nope, not steel. Glass melted. It was crazy. There was one of my friends, he went back the next day and he was like, oh my God, look at my car. Oh my God. And he like went in, opened the door, and there was his phone and his skateboard. Totally fine.
So that's interesting.
No, the interesting part is if aluminum melts, you have at least 600 degrees Celsius. So pretty much everything that is not made out of stone or iron or so should have been burned.
There was not even a toilet left.
Yeah, and that was the whole thing, even ceramics.
Yeah, no bathtubs, no toilets, no countertops. Houses that had rock on them, gone. Usually the rock will still be there. I found a remnant of
and that was the big one for me, because there's a lot of the things that were brought up when all this was going on, 2 years ago and then again this year, or last year and this year. A lot of the things that people bring up and go, oh, this isn't natural. You go, actually, yeah, it is. Like trees burning on the inside, it's actually very common, especially in lightning strikes. I've actually witnessed myself, fucking freaked the shit out of me when I saw a tree burning on the inside and looked completely normal on the outside. But there's certain things, when you see a house fire, for example, a really bad house fire, if it's a brick house, and in Canada we have a lot of brick houses, old stone houses, you may see like the roof is gone, all the windows, everything else, but the main cornerstone parts of the house that are old brick, properly like 2 layers of brick thick, or stone, they'll still be standing. The whole rest of the house will be gone. It'll be nothing but char, but you'll still see these stone edifices there. Yep. And that's what the thing that got me was there was several pictures that I looked through, and that would have been like last year's fires, where you could tell it was a brick house. You could tell it was a brick house, and it was just shattered. It was exploded, and that's the difference. It didn't burn down; it blew up.
Yeah,
because the
firemen didn't even go into Coffee Park, and there's a fire station right next to it. I mean, granted, 260 fires started that at the same time. So that's another thing. How in the world does 260 fires start at the same time? And they said that this was called the Tubbs fire. Okay, Tubbs Lane is in, where they said it started, is in Calistoga. So I drove with my dad all the way to the pinpoint where they said it started. I said, I'm driving through Mark West Springs, and I'm like, Daddy, what do you notice? He said, miles and miles of no fire. No fire damage whatsoever. Just trees, beautiful trees, greenery. And then 5 miles down the road, boom, there's black. Nothing.
Huh. Well, this is the question I'm coming up with is because I don't know enough about the do stuff. But I do know a little more about things like plasma discharges, etc. And for me, when I look at, for example, right now, like this situation right now is an example where you're seeing all these fires in California. We're also seeing all of British Columbia is on fire. They have the worst fires that they've had in British Columbia than the last 10 years almost combined.
Washington's on fire. Oregon's on fire.
Yep. Okay. We've got Portugal's on fire. Spain is on fire.
Everywhere's on fire.
Africa's on fire.
And nobody's talking about it.
And no one's talking about it. And when I look at California, I can sit there and I can say, okay, I could see where, because California is kind of like a testing ground, right? This is, they kind of do shit in California, and they have done forever and ever. So if they have an agenda somewhere to do with California, whatever. So for example, and you and I talked about this, about all the marijuana growers where all of a sudden all their fields were on fire.
Oh yeah.
You sit there and you go, oh, isn't that just convenient? Let's legalize cannabis and then just burn all the fields down, right?
Yep. So that Phillips and Reynolds can come in and take over. Exactly.
So there was pieces to this where you go, okay, this is really fucking suspect. So the fact of if deliberately started fires in California, and especially in certain areas in California, I can totally see how they would do this kind of shit. Because all it takes really is some guy with a hell of a lot of fucking money who wants to take over, let's say, the cannabis growing industry, and to send up whatever caused it, set it up so that it happens and let it run. For me, though, I'm now looking at the greater picture of this and looking at what we're seeing everywhere else. Because what I'm also seeing is all the attention is on California. And if they're trying to keep everyone's attention on California, to me, that means they're trying to keep everyone else's attention not on everywhere else. I.e., if you can kind of get the public to kind of sort of semi-believe that the fires are just there in California, because I hate to say it, but most Americans have no clue that everywhere else in the world is burning down right now. Because the only thing that's being mentioned is California. And it's like,
Most
if we keep
Americans
everyone looking here, we're all looking over here. Say again, hon, you cut out. Uh-oh, Katrina.
I'll say something here.
Did we, I think we lost, oh, there she is. Hold on, Dawn, just give us a second. Sorry, Katrina, can you say, we lost you, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, is it better?
Yeah, no, we literally, like you cut out, like you literally disappeared off of everything for a second.
Oh, that's so weird. Last year, during our fires, most people here in the States didn't know we were on fire.
Mm-hmm.
It was only because of Facebook.
Yep, I remember that.
I have friends everywhere, and they were like, what the hell is going on? And I'm like, we're on fire. We've been on fire for almost a month. And they're like, really? And now the Mendo fire is so bad that I think it's getting so much press because like 7 firefighters have died. It's over 400,000 acres right now, and that's where all the pot is.
Well, and this is it. And see, so I'm looking at it, and I'm going, okay, so if they're deliberately lighting fires, and like I say, that is extremely open to question. Because I'm sorry, it's just too convenient. There's too many things that we've seen to discount that it was deliberately done. Right now, though, with all the other fires we're seeing, I've been going down this thing going, okay, what causes forest fires? And of course, we sit there, I've been talking about it for a little while. I'm saying, Okay, so we have all this ultraviolet light coming in, and it's burning the shit out of us. Like, we can feel our own skin frying. It's doing the same thing to the plants and the trees. And we have situations where, like I said specifically, Nick, I think Nick put a comment on the post about that, talking about BC, because he's from northern BC. It's where he grew up. And when they went through and they clear cut massive, massive sections of northern BC, Weyerhaeuser came in and they planted one crop of one type of pine. So no biodiversity, no, putting in all the different types of trees that should normally be there. They put in this monocrop. Then you have the pine beetle come in, which then has killed off all the trees. One lightning strike, and the whole forest. And they've been doing this for years now, because the forests have been dying in BC for fucking years. But now we're at a situation where they're coming out of nowhere. And we can look at things and say, okay, things are dry. Yes. Things are, we've got lots of this ultraviolet light, which is really amping up a lot of other stuff. Yes. But I'm looking at now is these plasma discharges. And this gets into what Ben and I have been talking about with the balance between the magnetics and the electrics. Everything we see that magnetically happens on the planet is mirrored in the electrical fields of the planet, because they're continuously like this. They work in conjunction with each other. And exactly. So we know the magnetics on the planet are absolutely fucking insane right now. We had a spike in the magnetosphere yesterday, unlike anything I have ever seen since 2010. So we're talking 8 years of me studying the solar shit continuously. We had a spike. We had something appear on the graphs I have never witnessed before. Of course, it goes completely, not even to mention, no one in NASA or NOAA or any of those agencies ever talk about these things, because they just ignore it. Let's not talk about it. But if we have one of these massive, massive magnetic spikes, you can almost guarantee that somewhere else, whether it's going to be a mirror image in the same spot, in the other spot on the opposite side, who knows, you're going to have a massive electrical spike.
Or has had a massive electrical.
Or has had, exactly. You're right, Ben, because it could be the electrical spike that happens that is causing the magnetic.
So to add to what I said at the beginning of all of this, I don't know if anyone remembers or whether I actually said it on this, but I'm pretty sure I said it to you, Dee, that I'm watching for a cyclone or something of that effect to hit Hawaii.
They've got a massive hurricane bearing down on them right now, right?
And I posted an article, I think it was in the UU room, about how all these cyclones hit Kilauea. So, and there's also these two huge typhoons forming in the South Pacific, and they look like they're leading up towards Indonesia.
And that's why I asked about gamma radiation. That's why I brought up the question about the gamma radiation.
So, when you look at it, you're actually seeing these, let's say, if we correlate what BP and Mr. BB and Dutch Synths and all those guys have been correlating, you've got the solar flares, and they've been watching the earthquakes and the volcano action and that kind of stuff, right? So then now what everyone's looking at is how the weather's going crazy, and lots of people are directing it a lot at weather manipulation, which is happening. But I think that the intensity of the cyclones and the typhoon activity is actually showing nature trying to create something that's countering what they're trying to hold off or direct. So you're seeing these huge storms, which are actually the discharges. They're not necessarily, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the manipulation is not happening, but what I am saying is I think that the increase in the veracity of these things is showing the need of that veracity to discharge.
Exactly. I agree, Ben. No, I completely agree. Sorry, Earl, say again?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So, Toronto got flooded, pretty bad from what I hear.
Yep.
And it's crazy, right? Because look at those pictures, and it's like, wait a minute. If that gas station building caught on fire, wouldn't it, the heat and all that spread to where the tanks are and, cause an explosion? Like, logically, that could happen.
They do, the tanks, I know what kind of gas tanks you're talking about. They're heavily insulated to try and prevent that from happening, because obviously that's a danger.
And they're highly earthed. They're super, like, they are so fucking earthed, it's not funny.
Okay,
yeah?
So let's go back to the thing about the houses, just quickly, because just what you said, because Nick is a house builder. Every house in North America has a grounding rod in it. Every house has a grounding rod put into it. It's main part of the structure of the house. You have to earth the house. Now, what happens if you have a massive plasma discharge come from the earth right under a whole pile of houses? It's the whole thing of the lightning coming down, hitting the guy standing up there with this metal rod, right? It turns it into a reverse.
It's an electromagnetic magnet. That's what it would become, because you've got a house that's rewired and you've got a charge. It's a Tesla coil. It is.
And so here's the thing. So Nick and I got into this today and we talked about Tesla coils. The big thing that everyone talks about is, of course, you watch when they play with the big, what do they call the big ball, the Tesla ball, with the electricity and the lightning. Come on, help me, somebody.
Yeah.
No, it's going to kill me. And if you've been to a science fair, you've seen where they do it and they have you put your hand on it and the hair stands all on end, etc. And then they pull out the second ball. And what happens between the big ball and the smaller ball that's held away? And it arcs. And the electricity arcs back and forth between them. And I sat there and was like, Van de Graaff generator. Thank you, John. That's the word I was trying to come up with, was Van de Graaff generator. Okay, now when these things happen, it's one of the big questions I come up to, because of course I'm questioning the moon right now. Like right now I have some serious fucking questions about the moon. What if that is, we've got the moon up here as the small ball, and the earth down here is doing these massive discharges, and it's like going back and forth. We can't see it.
Just remember though, if you're going to look at that moon, you have to remember that other moon that we've got too now.
Yeah.
So,
but is that causing a counterbalance?
Well, this is the whole thing, is when you start getting into that electrical universe thing, it's like, well, a lot of stuff can be not necessarily explained by any means, way, shape or form, because it needs to be understood properly, right? So that picture that Stephanie just showed of that beam, I'm like, that's kind of pretty perfect. That looks like that's a created.
It doesn't look natural,
right? But then you, who was it? I think it was Dutch Synths put out some photos from, I think it was Italy, and these huge fucking lightning strikes, right? So here you have these huge lightning strikes or plasma bolts that look like plasma bolts, and then you've got that thing that Stephanie just showed.
Katrina.
Oh, sorry, Katrina. My bad. But then you've got this, you see what I'm getting at? You've got these two variables. So we might, there's the potential that we're going through something right now that's universal, and there's either playing off of it,
using it to their advantage.
Because the other thing is, when we first got into like doing the whole future trends and potential threats and doing catastrophe management, I can't remember how many years ago, but Australia had this huge fire and it rewrote the world's view on fires, right? and it changed things like they had embers that would normally, and don't quote me on these variables and distances, but it was this kind of a variance. But let's say normal bushfires, the embers would travel 1 to 3 kilometers. Under this fire condition, they were traveling up to 20, 30 kilometers. And so then it got to, so it was the embers were getting carried in the atmosphere and dropped fucking way away.
Yeah.
So what we started looking at is going, well, what the fuck would cause this shit? And of course you had the chemtrail things going on, and we were like, well, aluminum silicate, when it burns, holy Jesus.
Yep.
But then when you and it was something that came up in here, and I was like, well, is this like, are we looking at culmination time? Like what you're saying there is like the pines go in, and then all you've got to do is throw out a fungal, mycological environment that then annihilates it, so that you've just got this degradation while they've been spraying.
Or a beetle.
Well, meanwhile they've been spraying glyphosate, which is another silicate, and they've been putting all these laboratory-made fertilizers, which are other silicates, into the soil. So you've actually got substances that and hot, really fucking hot.
Yeah.
Really hot. And if you've got cars that are made out of the same kind of substance, the aluminiums, because they're not, yeah.
And this is the thing. There's so many pieces to this, and this is what I'm saying. I'm trying to get people to look at, not to be insulting to California, not even slightly, because this is a big deal and it needs to be fully investigated. But I'm trying to get people to stop looking at California and looking at that as the only example of what we're seeing, because there's way more at play here. It is much bigger than a laser weapon or a dew weapon, that could be used as a weapon at this point because they're taking over the marijuana crops or whatever diversionary tactic they want.
I just want to interject on this exact point, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. What was California set up for? Was California not set up as like a production zone?
Yeah.
Is it not like a hub
called the fruit basket of America?
Yeah.
The food basket of America.
So what I would say is back you up on what you're saying, but use it as the example. Ergo, it's one of the earliest established colonial agriculturalized areas. So therefore, whatever they are going to be playing is going to work best there first. Much the same as New Zealand is like this third world country, but it's got a populace of jack fuck all, and you can go to Antarctica or Tasmania. So you ain't got much options. So they try all this political shit there.
Yeah.
Right? And so California, I think, is one of those massive examples, and you'd probably find that if you looked at where there's, same in Canada, it's probably, it all started in an area that was set up for an modern agriculturalized system.
This is, and I don't disagree with you at all. And this is why I said at the very beginning, California has been used as a testing ground for a lot of shit, and it's across the board. It doesn't matter whether it's business and corporate stuff or it's governmental passing fucking laws, a la vaccines or your kids don't go to school, or it's glyphosate and in just fucking inundating the amount of toxic chemicals on the land, to all of these things. California has been a testing ground. And I'm not entirely certain that Hollywood doesn't play a part in that somehow. And I don't know where that fits in, but I'm telling you that somehow Hollywood is a piece of that, and I don't know why.
That's just what I was thinking. You said that, Danny. I was thinking that's one thing that I was like, they're forgetting to mention Hollywood, the whole.
Yeah, it somehow, some way,
it's also
it fits in there too. I guarantee it. But here's the thing that I'm seeing. Is when we're seeing these massive fires everywhere, and we're seeing things like lines of cars with their tires melted, Now, the roofs of the cars are untouched, but the bottom half of the cars are melted. So like I said, if you have a plasma discharge that happens, and it just so happens that under that road you've got all the rebar in the concrete, and you've got all the pipes that are in there, and you have a massive discharge goes out, and it goes up, and it's like a weather vane where it goes right down the street through all those pipes and all the rebar. It acts like an antenna. We're seeing this. Sorry, love.
Oh, when you're done.
No. Go ahead.
This goes right along with what you're saying. This is something that was never in the news here. From here, storm drains melted 10 feet down underground. Pipes melted. The reason that they're not being able to rebuild.
I wanted to ask you about that. Thank you. Because I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, melted.
Okay, so follow me on this one. If you have some corporate fucktard governmental type shadow government asshole, and they want to take over, and sorry, but I am going to focus on the cannabis industry in California, because California could be cannabis fucking central for all of North America, because they have the prime growing area. You could do 4 crops a year. It could be a 12 months a year. It really could be. So if you want to take this out, and we know this has been their plan since 2013 when they tested the legalization of cannabis in Colorado. It was all a fucking test, because now Colorado, the biggest medicinal growers, are all owned by Scott's Miracle Grow and Monsanto. Okay, so we knew it was a test back then. So now we have California. So what happens if you have, let's say, one of these massive plasma discharges goes off somewhere in California, in a home area, an area with all these homes, and some dipshit goes, hey, this is a perfect opportunity. We got wildfires going, so let's just start some of our own. Let's start blowing shit up, and then we can hide it because, well, there's wildfires everywhere. Look, And now, if you were one of the guys, one of these talking heads in these official government agencies, are you going to announce to the public, oh yeah, by the way, the planet seems to be giving off massive plasma discharges, enough that it's melting the pipes under the ground and melting the tires off of cars and blowing up fucking houses? Are you going to tell the public that? Well, no, you're fucking not. You're not going to tell the public that, because the public would go, run for the fucking hills. So, yeah. But it's the perfect opportunity to go in there, for anyone with an agenda, to go in and wreak havoc while the havoc is already going on.
Exactly. And corporations do get mad at people who stand up for themselves. People often said, why Sonoma? Why Santa Rosa? Why? Well, number one, when the smart meters came, this area was the first to say no, and we stood up against them. PG&E got very, very, very mad at us. Sonoma County is also the only place in the United States that will not allow Monsanto.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, that is a very interesting piece. I didn't know that.
And Coffee Park and Wiki Up Larkfield, which also burnt down, large area of it, are both unincorporated sections of California.
Okay, so here's the question. Going on the smart meters alone, because this is one of my questions about the smart meters. If people decline to have them put in their house, so you burn down their house and their house has to be rebuilt, is a law going to be passed, or has a law been passed to make them mandatory? So that, yes, i.e. when they build the brand new house, the smart meters automatically go in and they have no say about it?
Yes, and that's also all these new codes that are now on these new buildings. And They are making it so difficult. And I'm not saying that they're not rebuilding. I'm in there every week and I cry because I get so happy seeing all these people rebuilding because they ruined the plans. They ruined their plan.
Go back in and fucking rebuild. Don't let them.
Rebuild.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of people selling, but there's, they're charging $40,000 just to get your blueprints. And that's not covered by your insurance.
No, it's not.
And they have one guy.
And you know what? Okay, Katrina, that's happening in Portugal too.
I bet it is.
To get
your
blueprints, and it's 10,000 euros, which in Portugal is a fuck of a lot of money.
Yep. And also, in Portugal, that fire started 2 weeks after ours, and they had just installed 8 million smart meters.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I have a question about how the role the smart meters even play in the fire, because they emit frequencies, right? They're emitting frequencies.
Yes.
So is it one of those things where if you're talking about, for example, plasma discharge, lightning strikes, could those, and my other question is, and that's the sidetrack from the smart meters, is I also know that California is one of the testing grounds for the lithium home batteries. Do you ever see what happens to a lithium battery when it gets near fire? It explodes.
Yep.
I don't mean a little explosion. It's like a mini nuclear bomb when that fucker goes off. So if you have a house.
Oh, yeah. And
my question was this. Picture California or any large city, right? You've got smart television plugged into the wall. You've got all your phones plugged in. You've got laptops, computers, everything all plugged in. And they all have lithium batteries. That's even discounting if you have one of those stupid Tesla lithium wall batteries in the house. Now, if you have a major ground arc that comes up, hits the ground rod in your house, goes right through all the electrical wires of your house, and hits all those lithium-ion batteries that are plugged into it. It's like a small fucking nuclear bomb. Kaboom.
And that's what looked like we got hit with.
And that's what I said. When I saw those houses that were like gone, it was like they evaporated. That is not a fire. That is they've been evaporated. And yeah, I have a lot of questions when it comes to things like the lithium-ion batteries and the smart meters.
The new codes for the rebuilding, every house now has to have smart refrigerators, smart ovens.
What?
Smart this, smart that. The smart, anytime you hear the word smart or sustainable, it's all Agenda 21.
Well, it's all spying on you. It's all spying on
too.
you. Like, I'm sorry, but I can't.
Oh, hell yeah.
How can they force you to have a smart fridge?
Yeah, a smart fridge, and it can talk to you.
How can they force?
And everyone's
I can't even comprehend what excuse they could come up with to change a bylaw to make it that you have to have a smart fridge or a smart stove. I literally, my brain is just melting right now.
Yeah, because in their eyes, or not their eyes, what they're saying is to save energy. And I'm like, you don't need to. We're fine.
Don't you have free will choice to decide?
No.
You're the one paying the energy bill?
Not when you're rebuilding. You don't have a choice. And one guy.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, one guy, his insurance company said, we're not going to pay you anything because as far as we can see, you started the fire.
Seriously?
They're making it so hard for these people to rebuild. Every time I see somebody standing outside their freshly poured foundation, because everybody's foundation busted, cracked.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Only one house in Coffee Park didn't lose its foundation. And that's a really bad fire.
That's what, like I'm talking about plasma discharge. That's going to blow through your foundation. Every single where there's a water pipe going up, where there's electrical conduits going up, that would it would destroy it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they're doing now? This will tie in real nicely. Is in Texas, they're sending us notices on our homeowners, making us all question, would we have enough money if our house was to burn to the ground? So they're telling everyone to overinsure. So like I did this back 10 years ago.
Wait. Hold on. Who's telling you to overinsure?
Well, they're saying that, you know, if your house burned to the ground because of how much it would cost to rebuild it today, that you need to look at what that difference would be, because they can't guarantee they could rebuild your home.
Wow.
So I've been insured over for like 10 years just because I caught on to this a long time ago. But now they're like, actually, you know, because like, you know, 10 years ago, you know, this happened in California where people lost their homes and they couldn't rebuild. So they left.
Okay,
But-
Katrina, I got a question for you. House values in those areas that burnt down. Now, you talked about the one, you said it was a gated property, so I'm assuming nicer homes. So if it was rather nice area that has a high property value, then we have to look into that. And I'm sorry, but with the banks who run the mortgages, who overinsure on every one of those houses, like every one of those houses was overinsured 3 times at least by the banks. So they're making back 3 times as much. So again, I have to ask this, like, okay, is this a way of the banks coming in also? They've got to make up their money because we know the banks are fucking broke. We know the banks are absolutely fucking broke. So how do you do it? Is it you rig it? Because then like your house burns down and it's worth $200,000. That's what your mortgage is worth. But you don't realize is the bank has got 3 separate insurance policies on each for $300,000 each. Plus you've got a private insurance policy on it, so they don't even have to rebuild your house. They just collect the $600,000 from the house burning down, and you still have to pay to get your house rebuilt.
Yeah, they have to pay to get their house rebuilt, and they're still paying their mortgage on a house that's not there.
Uh-huh.
Look at this. Look at this. This is how much I pay in 1 year.
I can't read it. Oh, 3,829, 3,829 a year.
Just for homeowners.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Wow.
The principal on my house is less money than the escrow on the taxes. It's a joke.
You know, the entire system is right now. The entire system is right now. And that's when every time we have something like this comes up, we're dealing specifically talking about central banking now and the big banks, especially the big 5. When we have this kind of an issue coming up and you have whole areas that are gone, and look at what happened in New Orleans with Katrina. There are people who've still never gotten paid out their insurance money, because when you go up against the big boys, you fucking lose. It is very, very rare that anyone wins against one of the big banks or the big insurance companies. And then, of course, the banks and the insurance companies work in cahoots with each other. Whenever I see this, I have to question even just specifically the monetary value of what is made off of. Sorry, guys, I've got something in my eye that is killing me here. The monetary value that is made that makes it worthwhile. Beyond, never mind Agenda 21, never mind even the cannabis, and they want to go in and take over the cannabis fields and force them to plant like the GMO cannabis, which we know they're going to do. The monetary value that comes in. So, for example, is the state of California getting any kind of like emergency funding from the federal government to help everyone?
Yes, and that's part of the deal is what I was going to say earlier, is because Trump cut them off because of all this illegal immigration, you know, all that bullshit. So it cut off funding. And so I heard through the grapevine that they're creating these things to exasperate a loophole so that they can get funds coming in a different way.
Yeah.
I heard that too.
Yeah. I've heard that too. No, that was one of the rumors that I had heard as well, is the fact of like it gives them a way to wait. And yet someone just posted something 6 months ago that talked about it was in California, and I want to say it was the equivalent of Parks and Recreation. I don't know what you guys call it in the States. That's what we call it in Canada. Whatever ministry deals with the parks and the natural preserves, etc., they discovered they had hidden funds, hidden accounts with hundreds of millions of dollars in those accounts that they never claimed they had. And they were playing, oh, poor us, we have to close these parks down because we just don't have the funding to keep them going. Meanwhile, they had these massive amount of money that the entire, like I said, in Canada we call it the ministry, but the entire department had hidden away. So how many more of those? How many more of those are going on right now? For example, like, and this is my thing. There's a whole piece here, and California being a real broad spectrum fucking example across the board of you know how they play these ludicrous games. We're gonna mute Dawn and her thunder keyboard.
Danny, I ain't said nothing yet, but holy mackerel, the story you guys are telling, it's like an impossible situation every which way you look. Every angle seems to be melting or blowing up or something, and every freaking angle you look at, financial, geopolitical, infrastructure, everything. Well, you look at that and say, well, what are we supposed to do about all of that? And then there was a couple of comments in the chat. Ben made one. He posed the question: is this the culmination? Culmination of what? Okay, well, I kind of responded to him, and then Gypsy brought it up later. She said it's bigger than the guys that want to get rid of the independent marijuana growers in California, although they're there, and it's bigger than the banks that want to make a ripoff of.
It is.
They're there. And then it's the insurance companies, although they're there, and they're all doing their little thing. But there's a bigger picture going on, and that's the part that as much as I try, I can't get my head around. But I know it's bigger than that.
Okay, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight, Maury. And this is one of the pieces, and that's why I started talking about, I'm really looking into, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, guys. I've got a sneeze brewing in my nose. It's been going for about 3 minutes now.
Well, then you won't sneeze, you know that.
I know. This is like, now that I've said it out loud, of course I'm not going to sneeze. I'll just have the tickle sit there.
There you go.
One of the reasons why I got into the discussion about, we're talking about the UVA, UVB, UVC light coming in. We know we have cosmic rays coming in. We know that we have, and what I started to say, and the reason I brought up the question about the gamma rays, is what most people don't realize is that when these massive hurricanes come through, they can be so powerful that they send out gamma rays. Okay, they create and discharge gamma rays out of tornadoes, hurricanes, etc. Okay, so we are looking. This isn't a just here, because this kind of shit is going on other planets, on Mars, on Venus, on Jupiter. They're showing, like, sorry, so I'm going to use the dirty fucking word. They're showing climate change happening on all these planets as well. We're seeing incredible types of things happening. Now, I posted the link because I started a secondary conversation dealing literally with the plasma discharges, because I didn't want it to take away from the conversation that was going on about California and the fires. And the one link that I dropped in there was talking about, from a site that deals with a lot about the electric universe theory. And it just so happened that the actual article itself was about the craters on the moon, which is why I brought up the Van de Graaff generator thing. And the fact that they try to tell us that they're impact craters, and yet that makes no sense. And there's been several scientists, one of them was a British scientist in the 1940s, who proved without a shadow of a doubt that is arcing plasma that is causing these craters. And he proved it on small scale. Like, he actually built scale models and put an arc through it, and it made, literally, it arced out all the way around. So you'd have one big crater covered by all these little round craters all the way around it, where it arced out. And you know what? The picture looks exactly like the surface of the moon. I mean, you would honestly think it was a close-up picture of the moon. I pulled out 3 photos. One is when I was reading about it, I immediately jumped into my head, and Nick discovered it back when we were in Morocco. He was, you get on Google Earth and you start having fun and scrolling down and looking at different areas. Just south of Morocco, in the Western Sahara zone, if you will, there is a fucking crater that is viewable from space. It is huge. And you take a look at these pictures that are in the article showing these craters, these arc craters that this guy's saying, on Mars, on various moons of around Saturn and Jupiter, on the moons around Mars, etc., and our moon. And there's this fucking crater in the middle of the Earth. And then I started looking around, and I found a couple more very, very quickly, because you don't have to scroll in that, you don't have to zoom in that far to find them. They're that big. Up on the border between Chad and Libya, again, a whole series of massive craters that looked exactly like these same discharge craters. It looks as if this has happened before, and this has been happening before. Now, the interesting thing that Nick brought up today when we're talking about it is right now, our solar system is going through an area full of charged hydrogen. Massive amount of hydrogen particles. Now he says, going on the theory that the sun is what they say it is. And we all know that that's highly open to debate and question. The sun burns up what comes, it sucks in and burns up what it comes in contact with. So if you have it sucking in all this hydrogen and burning hydrogen, where's the tipping point? Because hydrogen are a negative ion. What happens if the sun's burning up, going through this massive cloud of negatively charged hydrogen ions, and all of a sudden you've got, the universe is rising, its pH balance is totally off, is basically what I'm getting to, yes. And the sun starts arcing. And I said, okay, we keep having these things with massive solar wind stream coming in. That's what they call it, solar wind stream. Is it solar wind? It's not wind. We know it's not wind. The sun isn't going and blowing on us. It's massive waves of charged particles being discharged by the sun. Now, the same thing, if we're talking about this relationship between our planet and the sun, if we're seeing these massive discharges coming from the sun, it's not a stretch to say that like the Van de Graaff generator, you've got the two right there, that there's not arcing going on between the two of them. There's a lot of shit going on that no one's talking about. And the biggest problem we have right now is trying to dig up the research. And I've said for Thunderbolts project, yes, the Thunderbolts project is the one that I was talking about. They are phenomenal. And I highly recommend everyone go take a look through the site. If you're into the science and you want to really dig into this event. The problem is Google is broken. And I've said this for fucking years, but it's getting more and more broken. To the point now that you cannot search for anything of meaning. I'm to the point now, when I need information, I go directly into science journals and do searches on the science journals websites to see if I can pull up anything. Because if you are relying on Google search, you're fucked. Nothing is coming up in the realm. Anything that is of any remote, and I'm not talking about alt media or conspiracy theory stuff. I'm talking simple science articles. You can't find those studies anymore. They're just, Google's broken. It is so difficult. And the problem is, and Jerry, I agree, the problem is everyone says, well, let's go to another search engine. I use DuckDuckGo, or I use, right now I'm using Ecosia at the moment as one of the ones I'm using most often. They use the same algorithms as Google. They use the exact same algorithms, so they're just as fucking broken. And this is one of our biggest problems. So we need to dig out some of this information. We need to start putting this together. We're seeing things, for example, like this massive amount of earthquakes this week. Well, are we looking at a cause and effect? Earthquakes are happening. They are an effect of something happening within the planet. We also happen to have massive wildfires going all over the planet at the same time. We also happen to have massive volcanoes going all over the planet. Are they symptoms of something else, or are they cause and effects themselves? And this is one of the big things that I've been really, really trying to dig into and look at right now. And I find that right now, the alt media is doing everyone a disservice. And I won't go so far as to say they're co-opted, because not all of them are. But they're doing everyone a disservice when they hyper-focus on one little fucking piece. Whether it is like the dew caused fires in California, and then that's all anyone bloody will talk about. You say forest fire in California, they go, it's dew. Dew is the new HAARP. So it's like I said, 3 years ago it was CERN. Everything went wrong in the world, we fucking blamed CERN. And like I said, I was one of the #1 people who was leading the charge. Then it was now, everything now is 5G. Everything that goes wrong in the world, if anything goes wrong health-wise, road rage happening, headaches, blackouts, it's all 5G. This is a disservice. And I think it keeps us looking at little tiny, tiny fucking pieces that, yes, are fucking bad. And yes, they're a major fucking problem, but they are not the cause. And I think that they're shoved in our face so often. It's to keep us focused on them so we don't look for other answers. We don't know what other suspects are. What are the other things that could be causing these things?
How about the very nature of our reality? How about the
Listen, I just finished watching Westworld, okay? You want to talk about the very nature of my reality going...
Yeah, so it kind of makes sense.
It makes a fuck of a lot of sense, and all the way through. Okay, I just finished binge watching Westworld season 2. I waited until the whole thing was over so that I could watch it all at once. And literally, if you haven't seen Westworld, like I always put the warning out, it is extremely violent. It is extremely violent. If you can get through, if you can just kind of put those on and ignore that part of it and actually watch it for what this show is saying, holy flying fuck on a stick. There are pieces in every episode. There's 8, 10, 15 pieces, and there's subtleties. I'm going to go back and rewatch the last 2 episodes of season 2 all over again tomorrow, because I know I missed a pile of pieces. All you need to do is miss one little tiny piece of dialogue. That's how much is buried in these shows. And you have to question the nature of our reality right now, because we've had too many shows coming up. And you have that Westworld, and then there was that other movie I was talking about a few weeks ago called Extinction that was it's a Netflix original, which kind of leads into the same kind of idea. We've had too many things. Yeah. And Fringe, oh, Jerry, don't even get me started. Fringe is, like, as far as I'm concerned, it should be a must view. Everyone has to watch it. It should be, like, taught in public school, as far as I'm concerned, Fringe. Fringe, Chris, I swear to God, I'm going to slap you. Every show you got to make me laugh. Oh my God. These shows bring to the table stuff, and that's why I kind of mentioned it on last Wednesday. I have to question if the nature of our reality is what we suspect it is. Let's say it is being governed by an AI. Let's say that that's the nature of kind of whether it's a holographic construct, a physical construct, a dimension, doesn't matter. Are we being fed the clues? Because there's just too many pieces coming out now. Things like Fringe, things like shows like Westworld, shows like the movie, and a pile of movies coming out now. Even when we just watched Annihilation. Again, you have other big, massive pieces. Anne Callahan just watched a movie called The Beyond, and it's another Netflix original. Isn't it funny how much of this is not coming out of fucking Hollywood now? It's coming out of Netflix, called The Beyond. And it's another really interesting movie when you see what they're kind of presenting. There's another piece there that's, the experiment is becoming self-aware. And I honestly, Linda, I've said that for ages. I think all the writers are secret. Everyone in Unfuckers is fucking writing for these agencies and writing these stories, because I swear only an Unfucker could write these fucking stories. And yeah, and Jerry, absolutely. Jerry just said, I really think that we, the collective mind, is telling us the truth through media. Yes. These are coming out collectively. And they resonate. And it's really funny because I was just talking to someone recently talking about the movie The Matrix. And they were talking about their own, they can remember the first time they watched The Matrix. And she said, you have this stunned moment where you walk out of the theater and you actually look around and go, holy shit. My reality just fucking shifted. And it's because your perception has shifted. That you've had a piece of, like, something has been taken away, and a blind or a veil gets pulled away, and you all of a sudden go, holy shit. And I see this more and more as we look through these movies and we see these TV shows that each bring little pieces. And even if it's not accurate, even if it's not fact or truth, it allows us to expand the way we think about our reality. It makes us think about our reality, and it makes us question our reality and get to a place where I think we all are, where we go, our reality is not what they're fucking telling us it is.
Hey, Danny.
Fucking slightly.
Danny, on that point in particular, and you know this from your own life experience, and I dare say most everybody in here does too. When you speak to a group of people, you can speak it. You can use the same sentence and have 3 or 4 different meanings on that sentence depending on who's listening.
Yep.
I know this because I do it all the damn time. And it's more than just double entendre. It's you can speak to a wide range of people and be understood, but you're understood at different levels. And you as the speaker know those levels, and you know that you're aiming at different levels of understanding, and the same words are, you're knowing this, the same words are interpreted differently. Same thing with these movies you're talking about, or Westworld, which I haven't seen, but I know about, obviously. Some people will watch that and they'll just see a surface view. Other people will see a different view, and then other people will see like what you're talking about and what others in here are talking about. So there's that. It's multi-layered is what it is. And we're picking up on shit that a lot of people are not, even though we're seeing the same things, like the fires that we were talking about earlier. People can take the surface view and say, well, the smart meters blew up. That's the answer. Other people will say, well, wait a minute. Then we get into the discussion like we had today, and now we start talking about plasma beams, or maybe even something bigger than that. And we're still in the, you get the sense of where I'm kind of going with that.
Yep.
Depending on your level of awareness is what you're drawing from it. And hence, we're sitting in a room of 43 people instead of 43,000 people. As the case in point.
It's called lore. They have to tell you.
And
I agree.
But it doesn't mean everybody has to understand.
And I also agree with that, Maury.
That's not their problem.
That's not your problem. Exactly. If you don't understand,
that's your problem.
That's it, exactly. But the thing of it is, and I'll say it for this damn group, we're clued in. Now, we still don't have the final answer, but we can sure smell it's around the corner somewhere, and we're getting close. That's an illusion. That's just a metaphor, okay?
Oh, no, and I get it. No, I get it. And Jerry, I agree. There's not 7 billion people on this planet. I don't think for a moment that there's 7 billion people on this planet. Not even close. Not even fucking close. When we watch certain things. So, for example, and I always use The Matrix as an example, and I speak from my own experience with it. You see it the first time. And then, I saw it in the theaters the first time. And then it comes out on DVD, and you've got, like, a couple years later, you sit down, buy the DVD because it's on sale somewhere. Oh, this was such a good movie, I'm going to buy this. And you watch it again and you go, oh, I missed that. Especially when you see it in the theater. You always miss stuff when it's in the theater. And then you sit and you don't watch it again for maybe another 5, 6, maybe 10 years. And you pull it out. So for me, I hadn't watched it in ages, and I pulled it out to show my eldest daughter. And I sat there and was just like, Nick and I both were going, oh my God, I totally forgot about this part. Oh my God, I never got this the first time. And I watched it again about a year ago. And there were parts again a year later where I was like, you're sitting there going, and as you, like, there are levels to how deep you look into it. And it's the same thing like you said with Westworld. There are people who are going to look into it and go, oh yeah, they built a bunch of robots and the robots are going to hold a fucking rebellion, and that's what they take it as. And completely miss the whole undercurrent of consciousness. And then miss the undercurrent of that undercurrent of consciousness, and then miss the undercurrent of what they're talking about and the fact, well, I'm not going to get into it, but because some of you haven't watched it yet. Fucking huge. The last 2 episodes of season 2, literally.
Hey, I think Gypsy brought up a good point. It's like, if that many people are dying, you know, how many people notice funerals around them every day? Because I know I don't see them.
No, and this is, okay, and I'll use that as an express, okay, because I live in a Catholic country. Everyone in this country is fucking Catholic, except for me. And they can't get rid of me. When there's a funeral, the bells ring, there's a major procession, like it's a very traditional country, where when there's a funeral, like everything in the village of the funeral stops. And there's a full-on procession where they carry the coffin through the streets. You're talking everything stops in that village. Okay, I have seen, since I have been in Gozo, which is now over 2 years, I have seen 2 funeral processions. That's it. Now, you know, more people than that are obviously dying. Of course, they're in smaller villages, they're out here and here, so you don't see them. But I've only seen 2. And it's a big deal here. Like, it's like everyone goes, like the entire village turns up because you're paying your respects. It is a very big part of the fucking agenda and the whole dogma of the religion.
Yeah, and also one of those things that the fundamentalists don't want to hear is like, yeah, all the funeral homes, the whole thing regarding the selling of death. It's like there's so much, how much fucking money is made every year off of funerals, and how much like they're conning people. It's,
oh, yeah.
Hey, Star, that was my first job.
It's quite sadistic, actually.
My first job was selling pre-needs for a funeral home.
Oh.
So I was just, I think I was maybe 16, 17, but I did really good at it because I think it's valuable to, you know, not put all that on your family. You know, ask your family what they want. I mean, it's golden opportunity, and it costs, you know, maybe an eighth of what you would pay when it's. There's a difference between pre-need and at-need, and at-need the prices are astronomical.
And
so I
listen,
believe.
You talk here. There's no cremation in Malta because it's against the Catholic Church to be cremated.
Really? Why is that?
Cremation. Don't ask me. I don't fucking understand.
Does anybody know that?
Well, it's funny you mentioned cremation because my younger sister, she went through that. Whenever she passed on, she wanted to be cremated, so that's what was done.
Well, that's what everybody's doing now in Texas. Yeah. I have a friend that works in that industry, and she says the whole industry has shifted in the past 5 years. Everybody wants to be cremated.
Okay, so here you have a country that's an island, or a chain of islands that are that fucking small, that is pretty fucking densely populated considering the size of the island, right? When we talk, what Jerry was just saying about how many people are actually dying. Every village has its own, like, cemetery area. Okay, but when you see the sizes of the cemeteries, there's one really big one in Malta, which is where, like, all the war victims and all that were all buried in, like the big, kind of like the national cemetery, if you will. But when you actually try and figure out the concept of how tiny this island is and how small those cemeteries are, Now they have family crypts are a big deal here, in which case they just kind of push the bones aside from 100 years ago and they put another body in. But that's only families that can afford family crypts. It doesn't make sense. Like you can't possibly if every single person in Gozo and Malta was buried here, there'd be no fucking land left. If you were going by their estimation of what they population growth, et cetera, et cetera.
So it's said that the Catholic Church frowns upon cremation because they believe in the resurrection and they believe a body needs to be present. But they have since changed their stance on that, as long as the believer has faith when he died.
Well, that message hasn't gotten to Malta yet because there's not a single crematorium here in Malta.
I was going to say, when you mentioned had to have faith, when they died, it was like, I have trouble with these words, even like faith and hope. I like what Nick said, like hopium.
Hopium, yeah. No thanks.
Yeah, that word hope, I don't like it either. Because hope, when people are always hoping, there's no action with it.
Thank you.
The only thing I hope for is I will hope for good weather the next day. I hope tomorrow's going to be a nice day because we want to go to the beach. That's about as far as my hope level goes. Really.
Yeah.
Or I hope I can go to the store and there'll be some fresh grapes today.
Well, I hope I hit the lottery. I hope I hit the lottery, but I also play the lottery, so at least there's some action there. You got to be.
And if you win, you're going to share, right? You're going to play shares, right, Maury?
It depends on how big it is, but I'll share it. Some.
Yeah, me and Maury have a deal worked out on that, for sure. We'll get us a big old place in Sedona in North Carolina for everybody.
Yep.
We'll get us a big old freaking southern estate with rolling hills.
How about outside of America, though? Seriously. Some of us would like to visit, but some of us really don't want to come to America.
Well, the countryside's pretty nice in America. It's some damn.
Yeah, but I don't know if they'll even let me in.
See, the problem is for me is I have too many animals, and there's no way for me to get my animals over out of here.
Yeah, there is some. So it depends on where you're going. It always depends on where you're going. And I'm just teasing anyway. I know that's kind of it's out of the question for the moment. There's only so much we can do, right? So
I would fly people if I had I thought about this. It's like, if I suddenly came into enough, I'd be like, I'd probably at the very least help some people pay their flight fare to Malta or to Gozo. I've thought about that. It's like, I'd want to spread it around some.
Well, you're awesome and I love you.
Ditto.
Yeah, so I the whole thing is when it comes to all of these topics is just really, really got to question everything that we're told. And more when it comes to the alt media, we really have to question what we're being told. Because besides being very one-sided a lot of times, let's face it, especially American alt media, you've got, this is the far Republican, the far Democrats over here, and religious kind of,
Yeah.
You're right there, Danny. And ultimately, that goes right back to what you know is true. You're going to have to get your real knowledge from within.
Yeah, but you know what? And Maury, I know what you're saying, but that's really difficult. It is. When we talk about things and I'm talking about now subjects of we're talking about tonight, plasma discharges, and we're talking about solar system, climate change, etc. Because we don't know. We're not scientists. And we don't have access to the information, so all we can do is dig.
Right. I understand what you're saying. I do.
Yep.
I do. But you still step back from it, and you still have to respond to it as an individual. And what do you do with that? And you say, there's more information that if I'm twice as smart as I ever was on my best day, I still don't know enough or can't know enough. And then you're still stuck. You say, well, what do I do about it? And that's where the answer comes from within.
Yeah.
Literally. How do you deal with it? How do you respond? Which is not react, but how do you respond to the person? And I will, well, for what it's worth, I've been watching these programs since they started, and I've listened as people talk, and I hear what you guys are saying. And at first I thought you were wrong, you know, where you were going into just trying, like you and Ben and oh shit, her name just went out of my head. And
Katrina?
I know her. No, the one in Ireland.
And?
And
Anne. Maybe it is Anne.
talk about Brianna or Brit or
No, Brianna's in Romania, but she's in on it too. Where you were talking about getting your own place, you know, and just making the natural, like Ben's doing only in Australia, only doing it somewhere else and going natural. In a way, I can almost see
building community.
Building community, exactly. That wasn't what you were talking about 2 years ago, let me tell you. And neither was anybody else in here, but I've seen a switch towards that. And in my own life experience, I can see, well, you know, really that is the answer. Get the hell out of this mess of wherever the hell we are. I see Star nodding there. He's up in Indianapolis, Indiana, place I've never been, but I know about. It's another goddamn big city.
Wilmington.
I know that Dawn's in Houston. If she weren't there, I'd never go to that place. Literally, it sucks, except she's there.
You're not missing nothing, Maury. You're right.
I know. Well, hell, I grew up in Detroit, for Christ's sake. You know, that wasn't no, even back then,
sucks.
it still sucked. And it sucks even worse now.
Indiana, no place. Indiana, no place.
All big cities.
I have an idea. Instead of trying to find Unfucker Island, let's find Unfucker Planet.
We may end up doing that. I don't know.
It's really funny. The movie that Anne was talking about in Unfuckers today, it's called The Beyond. That's basically the premise of the movie. And you get right to the very, very end, and they talk about how the politicians and everyone are voting and doing this, and you're all like, you're all staying on Earth. You can't come. No. We'll take the nice, pristine new planet, but no politicians, no fucking lawyers, no CEOs are fucking allowed. That's it. Yeah, we want to build the Shire. Exactly. I'd like to build the Shire. The Shire would be a pretty place to live in. I wouldn't even mind having a hobbit home. That would be okay too.
It's conceivable they all leave and we stay.
Yeah.
That's also, instead of us all, you know, ascending or getting on the spaceships, and we've all heard that one, or some other version of escape, you know, to a new Earth, which we've heard that one too.
Yeah.
Perhaps all them other motherfuckers, excuse me for saying it that way, are going to get on their, whatever they're going to get on and get the hell out of here. And here we're going to sit and say, thank you very much. Goodbye. Good riddance.
Well, you know, I've had an ongoing thing for many moons and years of saying that you need to gather up all these shysters and put them all on Fucker Island and give them a hammer and a shovel, and that's it. They just lock them there. That's it. Just lock them there. All of you guys, there's your island. Stay over there.
Let them all wear their red fucking baby skin shoes.
Whatever they want to wear, they can do it.
Together with their
and I'd like to see Bill Gates try and convince, you know, Tony Blair that he's got to dig the latrine today. That's totally good. I totally think that's awesome.
Tit for tat, Danny.
Yep. You fuckers, off you go.
And that's even too good for them.
Oh yeah, no, you see, because they would kill each other off, and they would all die, because none of them know how to actually do work, number one. None of them would know what end of a shovel to fucking use, probably. And they'd all sit around and try and order each other to do everything. And nothing would get done. They'd all die of starvation, which is a slow, agonizing death, and I'm all for that.
I mean, they don't really deserve any better than,
No.
I mean, it was like, it was be like a, how can I put it? It's sort of like even giving someone not what they're expecting. It's like, oh, we did all this horrendous shit, and it's like, well, you know, you're in deeper shit than you think, because if you're that stupid to begin with, and you just look someplace on Unfucker Island with a shovel and whatever else you said, just now did, it's like, yeah, these fucktards are going to be lost.
Hey, Deb, you're just cracking me up here. Deb says, no, we're going to dome it over, give them chemtrails, GMO food and seed, fluoridated water, and 1 plastic spoon, and that's all they get. I like it. I'm all for that.
Straws either.
And yeah, they can have all the straws they want, but they have to keep them on the island. It'll be, like I said, it'll be called Fucker Island. Exactly, not Unfucker Island. We'll take the rest of the world, thanks. They can have their little Fucker Island. Perfect plan. I like it. Someone write that up. Let's all sign it and send it to the world governments. You've been hereby given notice. We're shipping you off. We're done with you all.
Mm-hmm. And I also had just another real quick thought. I had thought about this yesterday evening, and it's like, I thought about this, how there's some people who would be desperate enough that if some so-called benevolent beings came here, but things weren't as they thought, that the people that would be desperate enough to just get the fuck out of here, I mean, the really desperado people, and it'd be like, yeah, I can see where a certain percentage would jump onto that. It's, they're here to help. They're going to take us to another planet, though. They're going to change us so we can, where we can.
Hey, listen, I'm not taking that off the table yet, dude. It's all going to depend on the offer they make me. Someone sits there and says, yeah, I don't know, we got a better place. And if my heart says, you know what, I think these guys are okay, I might just have to jump on the spaceship. You know me, I've always wanted to ride on a spaceship.
Well,
Sorry,
here's the deal
although
on
I've been
that,
saying this since 2012. I just want to
here's
ride
the deal on that, Danny. You won't know until the moment that it's time to know it. Because you know yourself, everything happens in the present. It don't happen in the future, and it don't happen in the past. You'll know it in the moment, and you can trust it that you'll make the right decision. I'll say that to you personally.
Exactly.
What you just said there, Maury.
What
you just said there, more about trusting in the right decision.
You can't do anything but in the I'll tell you, Star. You cannot do anything except what you in the present moment ever. Anything in the future is just a conjecture, and everything in the past, it doesn't exist either except as a memory. Literally. In the moment, to answer Danny, I said, you'll know in the moment what the right choice is, and then to sit there and guess what it might be is just projecting into the future. You can't know now what you will know in the moment when it's appropriate.
Yep.
I just told her, trust that moment, it will be appropriate for her.
Yep, exactly.
Literally. And
that's why I wouldn't get on any so-called ship unless
you don't know that now. You're projecting. All I'm saying is likely you wouldn't, but you're projecting into the future. You won't know that until the moment comes.
Yep. And I'm with Teresa. Teresa says we need to send all the biting bugs, and we'll send all the mosquitoes, and all the ticks can all go with them when they go to Fucker Island.
And the poison ivy, too.
No, you can actually use poison ivy for some very cool things. They can't have anything that's even remotely healthy. Fuck that.
How about they just stay with their own creation? They get to keep what they created, and
yep, there you go.
Their whole mindset. Humanity, we act real fucked up right now, but I feel deep down that we're not like that. We were never like that. So,
I've argued that for ages. And everyone who says humanity's fucking up this planet, no. Humanity's not fucking up this planet at all.
Well, you
not
just
even
said right here, right? Thank you. Well, you said we're not fucking it up. Whoever's doing it is very non-human. These fuckers are not like us at all.
Well, this is Laura, and this is one of those things. And Nick and I had a massive rant about this just a few weeks ago. There was a big article that came out, and it was Zero Hedge or something, and basically blaming humanity for being a consumerist society, and the guilt and the shame that we should feel because we just are consumers. And that's a complete pile of bullshit. When our parents got married, when our grandparents got married, they got a set of pots and pans, and those pots and pans lasted their entire marriage, their entire life. They got passed down to the next generation. When you bought a TV, you got a TV. How many people know where their family's TV is somewhere? And 30 years later, maybe it never gets turned on anymore, and there's a lovely lace doily over the top of it because it's a massive piece of furniture, but it's still in existence. Cars. You didn't buy a car and have to get rid of it 2 years later, 3 years later, trade it up to get a new one because it's starting to break down. No. We can't buy. We don't even have a choice to buy anything anymore that lasts. They have created a consumerist society. We have no choice. If you need a pot and a pan, you have to buy what is available to you. And unfortunately, the handles fucking break off. Or they've got a shitty bottom on them. Or all this. You get a toaster. I haven't had a single toaster that has lasted me longer than 18 months in the last 15 years. My mom still had her original toaster she got as a wedding present.
Coffee makers too.
Coffee makers too. My mom has her blender that she was given as a wedding present. She still uses it every day to make her smoothies. My parents have been married. I'm 50. That means 53 years. 53 years she's been using the same fucking blender. We're not a consumerist society. We have been forced into a role where if we want to get anywhere, that we end up having to be that because there are no other options. There's no cars out there that fucking last 15, 20 years anymore. Unless you're going out and buying a used one that's 15, 20 years old, I hate to say. These options it's not us. We are not the ones destroying the planet. We are not the ones who are polluting the waters. We are not the ones who are polluting the ground, who are killing off the crops, etc. It's not us. There's corporations doing it.
But you know,
Lots
granted,
of them.
we are a society of order takers, and that's a problem.
Yes, it is.
But you know, the order's coming down. They think they can push that off on us.
Nope. And we can't let them. We have to stand up and say, no fucking way. You're not pushing this off on us. We have to stop feeling guilty for this. And that's the whole thing about global warming. The whole global warming thing is to make us feel guilty about climate change that's happening. It has nothing to do with fucking humanity. Nothing to do with humanity. There's not a single... pardon me, there's not a single thing humanity as a whole is doing that is increasing climate change. Not even a little bit. But they put the guilt on you, so that then you'll agree to the carbon tax. Then you'll agree to the special carbon taxes that are put on your electricity bill and your natural gas bill and your water bill, etc. Okay, Gypsy, you mentioned fucking trash. The answers are already out there. The answers are already out there because the smart people have already invented the answer to the trash problem. The smart people have already invented the answer to the energy problem. The smart people have already invented... There's tons of humans that are just like unfuckers here in this room who've already invented these fixes. They're available everywhere. Can you get the governments to take them on? Can you get the corporations to take them on? No, you can't. That's not the problem of the people. That's not the problem of humanity. That's the problem of the fuckers in power. And we have no guilt over this. And I literally all the time say it all the fucking time. You get people who are rude, and yeah, they'll drop their trash on the ground. We get it here all the time in Goza. We have to deal with stupid tourists who will leave their plastic ice cream cups on the side wall. And you walk by and you're just like, 10 foot away is a garbage can. What the hell are you leaving it here for?
Danny, you're making such a perfect point, and I just wanted to kind of weigh in on this one because, like what you said, it's as simple as, you know, the child learning to pick up the ice cream cup off the side of the road. The bottom line is within us. Like Maury was said, the answer is inside of us, because once we heal, we get right, we raise our kids right, the changes will happen. But it's got to take balance and love. It takes both. We can't continue to keep overcorrecting or going to extremes, because we have to heal so we're not running from pain and taking drugs and trying to eat too much and trying to do all the crappy shit. That until this stuff happens and humanity begins to heal, we cannot, you know, I mean, we can only heal ourselves, yes, but we can also become an inspiration to all those around us. 6 degrees of separation. If we do this work within, it will change, but I don't think it's going to change until enough people truly understand about being in balance and healing and knowing love in the healthy way. That's all I'm going to say.
And I agree with you, but I just want to add one little extra piece to that. And people don't necessarily have to know about being in balance. They don't necessarily have to comprehend the concepts of love and frequency, etc. But we can lead by example. And for me, that's what we all do. It's in the little things that we do every day. You lead by example, and it means in how you raise your kids, how you raise your grandkids. It's the nieces, the nephews, it's the friends that you have. Your children bring friends home from school. And you have a moment in there to be able to influence those kids. We do it all the time here. And it's little things. For example, as my friend Moosh, when we're out on the seafront, and the little Maltese kids will come up, and they tend to be obnoxious little fuckers, I'm sorry. Will come up and be like, how much for this? I want one of those. And she'll say, I didn't hear you say please or thank you. And then they'll go, oh, and she'll turn it into a joke and be like, and then, when it comes to the whole thing of like actually handing over the poi to them, and she'll be like, and please, can I have one? Okay, and thank you. These are little things. They're just little things, but we have an opportunity in our. This comes down to kind of like the stuff that I've talked about with Unfuckers for fucking years now. When we share our knowledge in the community, we have an opportunity to lead by example. Even if it means, like I said, working in a community garden and sharing that little bit, you have an opportunity to interact with people and show them a better way to act and show them maybe a better way of how to do things. That's the first step, because they may not comprehend the love, they may not comprehend being in balance, but they can comprehend, hey, that person is really nice. And whenever I see that person, they always have something nice to say to me.
But what happens though?
So maybe I'm going to start saying nice things to other people because I want other people to feel good.
Danny, that's being who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And, shining your light. You don't need, that's accepting who the hell you really are and showing it, not as a reaction, but as a response. You're going to, despite, if nobody, I'm sorry, I got 6 things in my head right now at the same time. So I'll speak the next one. The thought, it's better to light one candle in a darkened room than to sit and curse the darkness. You've heard that one, you must have along the way. That's literally true. It doesn't matter if nobody else shines a light. You did. That's you standing up for you. You don't need the rest of the world. But the net result is exactly what you and Teresa are saying. Some people, but it's not up to you to decide for them how they're going to respond. It's up to you to be you and shine your light to the highest ability you have. And we've all come to a point where we see that much. Rather than sit there and be reactive to all these evil doers all over the place, we said, fuck you all. I'm going to be who I am despite you all. Even with all of the crap that you're throwing at me, I'm still going to shine my light to the degree that I know how to do it. And that's where we're at right now. And that's a collective thing going on in this world. Is it the mass of everybody? Hell no, probably not. But I know for sure it's with us. And that's a statement in and of itself, and it's sufficient for each and every one of us individually. And the rest of it, that's up to them to either respond, react, reject, whatever they're going to do. That's not on you, but it's on you to sit there and say, okay, I see all of this crap. There's all kinds of ways to go. I'm still going to light that candle if I'm the only one in town or in the country or in the fucking world. I have that choice, and I'm still going to do it. That's giving the finger if you want. You can just, and that's what I think about all of you guys. You know that one, and we all know that one. And we all live in a collective horse shit world. We know that, but we can still sit there and defy them motherfuckers, even in their game, and not lose ourselves. Now that's pretty strong what I just said, and I think I'll probably shut up now.
Maurice, that's so perfect. I just want to, what you're saying is so completely perfect. I was just thinking about this yesterday about how, okay, it might sound woo-woo-y, but you know how you hear people say, you know, oh, I don't want to go over here, over there because they'll lower my vibration, or I can't, blah, blah, blah. If you're freaking vibrating as high as possible, the truth is nobody can bring that down. You will only bring them up. So thank you, Maurice. That's perfect. I love it.
Called owning your game.
Yep. And I agree, Teresa, so much. Too many excuses given for not doing.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Excuses, because that's what someone and me were talking about. Oh, yeah, Antonio Williams and one of his other groups, we were talking about that, how it's like it's amazing how many people will just stand there. Like if someone, if you just happen to come across someone like apparently beating on someone or trying to mug them or whatever, it's amazing how many people will some people will just stand there like, you know, maybe the programming, the zombies and whatever, it won't register in their brain to do something. I mean,
or they're afraid.
Or they're afraid. That's the fear. There's that fear factor, though. It's like you have to overcome that and do the right thing. So if I see somebody being attacked, mugged, whatever, I'm going to step in because because if there's not something that, that's little things like that add up.
Yep.
And if more people did them and just overcame their fear or anxiety, like, you know, what's going to happen to me if I get involved, you know, type of thing. It's like, well,
that's the heavy programming. Don't get involved. Don't put your nose where it doesn't belong, et cetera, et cetera. Self-preservation kind of stuff. It's bullshit. We had a situation out on the front, I guess it was about 6 weeks ago, where we always have our little stand is with our backs to the sea, so we're right against the railings with our backs to the sea. And just across the way and maybe 50 meters down, there's a little restaurant. And all of a sudden you could hear a commotion starting. I could hear something, and I immediately zone in. You're like, what is that? What is that? What do I hear? And all of a sudden a woman starts screaming, like that high pitched, freaking out screaming. And I just run. And I ran directly out there, and I got myself through the crowd and realized there was two guys fighting. And one of the waitresses just lost her shit because she was stuck right there in front of it, and she started screaming. Now, when I saw that there was a cop right there, and the people were there, and they were gathering, and they were separating the two guys, etc., and I was like, okay, it's fine. When I hear a kid on the beach start screaming, my immediate action is bing, start looking, start scanning. Is there someone in trouble? When I see someone getting pulled out of the water because of the jellyfish stings that we had earlier on this year, which happened all the time, you go and you do, and it's not about getting into someone else's business. It's like, you know what's right, and therefore you take care of what's right, and you just do it. And if more people do that, then we have less bullshit in the world. And then again, you lead by example. You just lead by example. Last year, by the end of the year, the lifeguards knew that I always had my little thing for jellyfish stings. And they would send people over to me on the beach if they saw me there. If kid got stung, they'd say, go see the lady over there with the white hair. She's got something that you can put on your stings. You lead by example, you know? If everyone started leading and doing these things by example, shining their own light, as Maury says, just be who you are and do what you do, how much better would the whole world be? Would we have bullying in schools if we all took a proactive hand and taught our kids properly about this situation? If everyone took that under control, we wouldn't have these situations. Not
Danny,
sure like it is now. It's insane at the moment right now.
Danny, what you're talking about, what you're describing, they have terminology in the intellectual world for that. It's not only growth, which it is, you know, from a juvenile to a teenage to an adult, early adult to a mature adult. That's growth, but it's also a growth in awareness.
Yep.
And that's what you're talking about. That's what we're all talking about in here. We are growing in our awareness. Now, is that not part of the definition of expanded awareness? Another word that's been bandied about in the New Age community for decades. We're in the process of expanding our awareness. We're growing into this awareness. And no, we're not identical, but we're in the same damn book. We're in the same damn chapter. And where a lot of us are on the same damn page, literally. That's a sign right there to you personally, and to Star and Teresa and Dawn and everybody else in this room. There's 43 in here. That, yes, that's your personal example, that you personally are doing what you came here to do, which was to grow, to become more than an infant that just takes orders.
Yep.
And doesn't know anything, or to the point they're pre-verbal and all of that, and then become the whole schmear case that we've all been through, the game that we played. From not knowing anything to knowing the rules of the game and being batted around to expanding past that. That's growth. That's expanded awareness in human form. That's pretty highfalutin right there. Yep. And that ought to be you can't spend it at the local store, but by God, you can spend it in your community, and you can go to sleep at night.
Yeah, that's right. You can spend it in your community.
And, thank you for saying that, Maurice, because that is the thing. We have all been hurt. We have all been trampled on. We've all been wounded. But the people that have grown and become self-empowered now needs to step out, like you just said, into the community, out of the the cave that we put ourselves in for a while, and go on out there and be, because leave the past behind, and it's time to move forward. Because I know how hard it is. I mean, especially those of us have had pain and suffering and things happen in our lives, and we're not so trusting of others, but we got to stop that, because now is a new day, and it's time to get out there and shine and fuck the past. Who gives a shit? And let our light shine and spread, because we can't hide anymore. No more hiding.
That's something that's changed too, and I agree with you, Teresa. Literally, that has changed, because we've all felt isolated, alone in our own communities. You might have like Danny. She's got a husband that's on the same page as her, and she's raising her kids. So, but there's a lot of people that are single out here that felt all of their lives like they're the only ones, and that's here we are again, 42 people in here, and there's a whole bunch of others that aren't in here that could be, that we all know. Oh, and that number is really quite wide in the world. And believe it or not, in the non-English speaking world as well, which I speak anything but English, but I know implicitly that's also true in the other, non-speaking English world too. Literally, it has to be true. That's an external sign of what I'm talking about, what you're talking about, what Teresa's talking about is actually going on. That's the behind the scenes stuff. That's the level above the level above the level that the movies are talking about. Yep. And there's probably within those movies, that's hinted at too if you start looking for it. Is that in there too? I'll bet you it is somewhere.
Yeah.
I just pointed it out. I made enough, I made the point really strong. So,
well, guys, we are over time already. So I am going to close things down for tonight. And I, again, forgot to put the movie poll up on Monday. I'm sorry, everyone. I just got it put up today. I was like, oh, crap, I forgot it again. So I don't even know what movie is in the lead at the moment. But I'll leave it open till, say, tomorrow night. And everyone can go in and vote on the movie poll and decide what movie they want to watch on Sunday. And, yeah. We'll be back on Sunday to watch a movie together. To be announced. To be announced. Yeah, and Meg and I agree. That whole 100 monkey effect. You know what? And we're doing it because it's one person at a time. One person at a time. But you have to be out in your community to make those connections to pass that frequency, to pass that little bit of knowledge, to pass that connection on.
We don't need to have that 100th monkey to be who we are, though, Danny. We got past that. We don't need it, but we're helping in adding to that number as we go.
Exactly.
But I don't, like I wrote in the chat, I don't need that 100th monkey to be who I am, and neither do you.
No, but we can affect change.
And in the process, we are. Just by being, we're shining our light.
Just by being who we are. Exactly.
And yes, that's sufficient to that's where our capabilities are. By God, be who you are.
Exactly.
And that's enough. It's enough. And in that process, yes, the 100th monkey probably will arrive. But if it don't in my lifetime, I'm still going to be who I am, and same as you are.
Exactly.
Here's the kicker. I just thought of this. What if that 100th monkey thing, unbeknownst to the people putting it out originally and us, could be a psychological operation? For all I know, it just popped in my head. Like you said, Maury, we don't just be who you are already.
Yep.
Who you are.
Exactly. The final comment on the show tonight: be who you are, and we'll see you guys on Sunday. There we go.
Streams off.
There we go, and there we go. So yeah, I'm gonna have one last smoke, and then I'm gonna go to bed.
I'm musing myself now. What you just said, I popped in my mind. Yeah, the last smoke thing.
You know me. I gotta have my last
Got
smoke.
it branded in my brain now. It's like Danny and her infamous last cigarette.
Have my last cigarette for the night. So I say, but I might get up and go out and have popcorn, and God knows, Nick's watching Game of Thrones over again now, so I mean, I might get pulled into Game of Thrones or something, who knows.
I was racing traffic trying to get back here for this call.
Well, you got for the end part, and I'll have the recording out tomorrow, so you can catch up with what you've missed. And Katrina, if you're still here, thank you so much for coming in and bringing, you send me those photos. Katrina just dropped me a message saying she's going to send me the photos over.
Yes.
I really, really appreciate you bringing that information forward, because that was so much information that most people don't have, most people don't know. So this is how we, share the information that we get.
Thank you for having me on the show, and I miss you guys so much, and really appreciate it.
Well, you know where to find us.
I sure do. One of the things that was interesting about that email that I posted, I love you too, Sony. The email that I posted the other night, last night on UU.
Yep.
The one from PG&E, right?
Yeah.
Now, yeah,
I had to think about that
it
for a
hasn't
second.
been.
Email? Wait.
Yeah, there was an email that I posted, and you were like, "Well, this hasn't been corroborated," and I was like, "Yeah, but it hasn't been disproven either."
Exactly.
It's been out there, and they haven't said that's fake. That's fake news. No one has said that. And here's the weirdest thing: is that when you guys were talking about this isn't us doing all this, the weirdest thing about that email is that they said at the end, you're going to find a way to turn it all around, and you're going to blame the customers for the space satellite issues. You're going to blame the customers. And then it said, the Earthlings.
I'm telling you. I keep saying. Been saying it for fucking years and years and years. The shit that we see play out. And I'm not talking about, the globalist agenda, blah, 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 blah. But like those 1% of the 1%ers, the ones who are actually doing this shit, your Hillary fucking Clintons and your fucking Tony Blairs and your Rothschilds and Rockefellers, they're not fucking human. Or if they're soulless, they ain't got no soul, they're not really human, because humans don't do that shit. Regardless of how greedy you are or how programmed you are, etc., humans don't do that shit. And when you talk about, I've always said that they're middle management, that there's something off-world that is what puts the shit down, sends the orders down type thing.
Kind of gives new meaning to They sold their soul to,
Uh-huh.
in a literal sense.
In a literal sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the email that I'm speaking of, for those who didn't see it, it was an email going back and forth between the head of PG&E and the head of the California Board of Energy. This is it was written in 2011, which is when they were trying to do the smart meters, and Northern Sonoma objected, and masses just objected. People were just tearing them off there at the buildings. It was hilarious, and people were getting arrested. That's where Deborah Tavares got her start in all of this. The stopthecrime.net. She's the one who found that email. Now, in the email, it says something like, from PG&E to the California Board of Energy. As a reminder, we have a space satellite that takes the energy from the sun and converts it to, radio frequency.
Something like that.
They send it down to the Earth, something like that. And then they said, oh, and by the way, we changed the receptor site from the Mojave Desert to Sebastopol, California. Sebastopol is just a couple miles away from Santa Rosa.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because I didn't know, Sebastopol didn't mean anything to me. And I went to ask you then, is that proximity?
Proximity, just a couple miles. I can walk through. But Sebastopol was the place that stood up and said, absolutely not to the smart meters. They're the ones that started it. And PG&E got very, very upset with Sebastopol in Northern California.
Interesting.
Is there some place on the internet to go read that email?
It's in the UnFuckIt room, Jane.
Yeah.
Do me a favor.
I've been gone all day, so yeah.
Katrina, just if you bump the post up, because Jane probably hasn't seen it if she's been out all day. If you just find the post and just put a comment on it and just tag Jane in it or something and just bump it up to the top of the page. I don't know where it is. I haven't been online since way early this afternoon, so I have no idea if it's fallen down the page.
Sure, no problem.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And that's this thing. That's the thing, Marie, is that these pieces of these movies coming out. We watched John Carter of Mars, and they've got the bald guys who can move in and out of time, and they can do all this kind of shit. And how many times they fucking appear in movies and TV shows? They're the same fucking characters. They have the same basic over and over and over again, and none of them are human. And Jerry, like you said, they have an AI soul, they have a soulless, they have a whatever. Doesn't matter. They're not human. Whatever their soul is I don't fucking care, basically. I just know that they are not conscious humans. And there's pieces there. There's always pieces there. Always pieces. And I will say the other thing that really struck me, and I'm giving away a little piece here in the Westworld stuff, in the second last and the last episode, there is a rip in the fabric where the hosts start going through into a computer reality. And it's that same rip that we've seen it on so many shows, that we saw it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes. They dealt with that. In Supernatural, they dealt with that. In I think the Green Arrow had a couple episodes where there was a rip in all these shows showing, and it's the exact same representation of literally it looks like a tear in the fabric of reality that can be pushed open and you can walk right through. I don't know. Futurama went through that thing. Dark Matter had one as well. Yep.
Didn't Strange
What do you
Things
think
have
that
also
represents,
someone?
Danny?
Something like that?
Stranger Things. Yep, Bassie. Stranger Things had that rip in it as well. To the Underdark, to the dark.
What do you think that is representing, the rip?
Rips between realities. and the fact that we can travel between different realities, that there are other realities that are accessible to us. It's, again, when you just keep seeing it shown over and over and over again in different ideas, different, well, you know what? And Jerry, you've got a point. I mean, this is what we talked about CERN and the fact that CERN, and I had this huge thing come up to me through just a few weeks ago with the whole thing going back and revisiting some of the old CERN stuff. What is CERN doing? Creating mini black holes. One of the major theories that came out a couple of years before CERN started being fully operational is that a black hole is an event horizon leading to another universe. And what is CERN doing? Fucking creating mini black holes. So, yeah, and this is their own admittance. This isn't woo-woo.
But
This
black
is
holes
just
are
what they've admitted.
theoretical. Black holes are theoretical. So
Absolutely.
if they were creating them, they could then come out and say, we've proven that black holes exist, which they haven't done. So I think it's hype.
You know what? You could absolutely be right. But like, again, we have these little pieces that keep coming into play. Don't get stuck on the term black hole, right? I try to take the terminology that is all theoretical out of it and just say, don't use that. They are doing something.
A lot of our world is theoretical. Even though things are built on that foundation of theory, it's still technically theoretical. Gravity is a theory.
Mass. Gravity is totally theoretical. We have no proof that it actually is correct. And that's what I'm saying. I've had this thing for years. I say they take a theory, this theory suddenly becomes law somehow. The law of gravity, the law of mass, the law of thermodynamics.
It's the Royal Society.
Yeah. And then yeah. And then someone builds a theory based on that theory. And then someone else builds a theory on that theory. And then someone else builds, and next thing you know, all of science is built on a pile, a teetering playing card tower of theories, none of which have been proven.
Right. So it begs the question, first of all, if one of the foundational theories is proven incorrect, how do the subsequent built upon ones continue to operate? And this goes into the whole placebo effect and how scientists tend to get the results they expect out of their experiments.
Isn't that
and
funny?
Basically, consciousness is pushing those things to work that way. That's what I think.
And you also have the fact that you can take mathematics and you can create a mathematical equation to prove anything, which is what we see when we see
Or program anything.
Or algorithm anything, which is, I'm looking at two major studies right now on C60, which are trying to debunk C60, trying to call it toxic. But if you go in and actually read the study, everything is based on a computer algorithm. No actual experimentation has happened. None. Zero. They've just created a computer algorithm and said, okay, we'll put in some data here, but they've created a computer algorithm to come up with the answer that they want, which is how science is being run right now, which is why you have the editor of the New England Journal of Medicine and the editor of the Lancet in the last 2 fucking years come out and say 75% of all research is bullshit.
One came out like 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, it said that less than 1% of the papers have been tested or peer
reviewed.
Not peer reviewed, but duplicated. Replicated.
That's what I was saying too. To tie in with you both.
I'm sorry, replicated successfully.
Replicated successfully, exactly.
What you two were saying is exactly what I've thought of recently. Ever since someone posted this article about something NASA was putting out. Oh, it's about the dust storms on Mars. All that stuff was going. It's like I'm not gonna. It's like all this programming. They keep bombarding us, like you said, the black hole thing. It's like they keep trying to keep us.
It's another distraction.
3D distracted world.
Yep.
And it's like that's why I'm 99% of it may as well be bullshit. To me, it's like theoretical crap. Like you said, they constantly are changing things, coming up with something else. But it's like, well, did you even bother having proof of what you already went through before? What makes you think they're gonna find out anything?
This is why I say we need to become, what is it, the term we came up with? Somebody help me, we said it, not logical scientists, holistic scientists, holistic researchers, because we need to be able to look at the evidence. We need to teach ourselves to look at the actual evidence and to be able to discern the response, discern the answer. So when it comes to things like, for example, the C60, you can have these studies that come out, a big one that I was just analyzing, that is sitting here going on, and you realize it's all a computer algorithm. They can't, I've got a paper I'm in the middle of writing to debunk the whole paper, and I haven't got it finished yet. I've proven the fact that they could not have gotten the answer that they got because they don't have the ability to see the DNA the way they say they do. And I have the fucking proof that it's not physically possible to replicate their experiment in physicality because you'd never be able to get an answer on it. But we can go back and we can look at the basic pieces, i.e., this was done, this is what the outcome was. This was done. We can look at it and we can say things like, all these children were vaccinated and they all have fucking autism now. Doesn't take a research scientist to go, gee, I think we have a problem here. We can look at it and we can say, all this aluminum has been sprayed into the atmosphere. It doesn't take a fucking genius to go, aluminum's not good for you. We all know you don't cook in aluminum pans anymore. Anyone with a brain cell knows this because it gets in your food and goes up to your brain, which causes Alzheimer's at just the very basic level. These are common knowledge pieces. And that's what it takes now. It's like, you know, if you rub against the poison ivy, you're going to be miserable. We don't need a scientist to tell us why or how it works. We just know that grandma was right. Don't fucking touch the poison ivy. You know, the oven is hot. Don't touch it. Ow, hot, burn. There we go. We've learned a lesson. And this is where we are at in a lot of stuff that we're doing now is we do the research and I sort through, God knows you guys know I'm fucking addicted to these science papers. And I go through and research. But what it comes down to is we have to be able to use our own discernment and look at something and say, the sun is frying me right now. The sun is frying my plants in my garden. Therefore, something is causing this to happen. I don't need to know the mechanism. I don't need to know the reason why. All I need to know is that it is happening. Therefore, you can take precautions. You don't go out in the midday sun. You make sure you wear long shirts. You try and cover up your plants a little bit to give them a bit more shelter. This is where we have to get to a place and where we start stopping the stupid theoretical science and the stupid theoretical research that means jack shit, and start looking at what is reality and start analyzing it from that level. We know reality isn't what we're told it is. So how can they define it with a fucking mathematical equation that's built on 10, 20, 50 different theories? They can't. They can't. Yeah, and that's it. I've ranted now. I've had my rant. Okay, guys, I'm going to say goodnight to you all. I'm going to make Star the host. Star, you are now the host. So you guys can all keep on chatting all you like. It's now 12:30 at night. I think I need a cup of tea, actually. A cup of tea might be nice. Brianna, go to bed. Kicking everyone in the European contingency. We all need to go to bed now. Brianna, go to bed. Anne, go to bed. Everyone else here from Europe. Bossy, go to bed.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
moment.
Tamara says hello to everybody.
Hi.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you, by the way. Thank you so much for everything you said, and must have been so hard for you to say it, and you said it so precisely, and so thanks a lot.
Yep. Well appreciated. Well appreciated. Okay, darling.
I think, Anne, are you still here, Anne?
Anne is still here, yes. She's holding on if she's not asleep.
if you haven't fallen asleep yet, do you want to put a word, because Sunday night when we'll get together, it'll be late. It'll be too late. Do you want to put a word about Ireland and the Pope and the whole fuckery and what the people are doing with the energy work? Do you want to put the word out?
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Danny,
Yes.
did you happen to watch that Miles Johnston Bases 88?
Hold on a second, Jerry. Just give me 1 second. Ann, do you want to just do that? Because I'm still recording. So if you want to put that, we'll put it in the video. If you're up to it.
Okay.
Nothing like throwing her on the spot.
Yeah, nothing like throwing me on the spot. So you all know the Pope is on his way here for some horrible meeting of families or something. And what we're seeing are tentacles of there are nasty tentacles arriving ahead of him, and he's going to, not only is he going to do some great big mass thing in Dublin, but he's going to the west of Ireland, very close to what is probably the most important sacred site, and that is Carrakiel, which is a big portal, very related to the energy of High Brazil and the pre-patriarchal energies, I suppose you could say. So what a lot of people here are doing is just standing up and staring. There's a kind of an energy that's coming out of our eyes, frying the tentacles. And it's just unfucker energy, that's what it is. So yeah, everyone who thinks about it, just stand up and stare at the creature, and let's see if we can fry him.
Fry the fucker fry.
Yeah. It's something, Shields Up for Ireland, absolutely. But it's more than shields up. It's like standing there, what's coming, the energies that are coming through, the energies of the Tuatha De Danann, the energies of, the ancient pre-patriarchal original energies are coming through. And it's like a last stand for this creature. He's trying to reestablish a foothold here. So yeah, we could do with a bit of help just to
definitely
stop him in his tracks.
You guys should get in touch with Thomas Sheridan.
What?
You should get in touch with Thomas Sheridan.
Oh yeah.
He'll help you fight.
I love Thomas Sheridan.
I do too.
Awesome. It's one of my favorite people. I got to hang out with him here in Texas, so he's a personal friend.
Next time he's in the country, I'm gonna go see him. But he's gonna be on my show next month.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, darlings. Now I am actually going to bed.
Night.
Good night,
Good
Danny.
night, everyone.
Sleep well. Pleasant dreams.
Yeah, pleasant dreams. I could use some of those.
Good night, Danny.
It's been all crazy fucking shit lately.
MK Ultra Dreams.
No, Jerry. Smack him. Brianna, he's just below you. Just smack him in the head. Yeah, he disappeared.
I'm somewhere else for everyone. I'm
there
somewhere.
You go. I know it shuffles it. You can't really do that. Oh, well. Okay, good night, guys. Mwah.
Night, Dee.
One small step